So I was talking to someone who had just been watching one of my videos that talked about the caged scale shapes going up and down the neck. So this video shows, you know, each position. It shows you the chord, it shows you the pentatonic scale, it shows you the major scale in that position. And then I worked my way up the neck, which is fine. But what he wanted to do is to understand, okay, there's some basic information, but how do I go about learning to improvise? And that's really what I want to cover in this video this week. So I'm assuming you've got some basic understanding of the guitar, you understand the guitar neck, you can sort of put bar chords on the neck as well, and you know how to position bar chords. So if I wanted you to play an A major bar chord, you'd stick your bar chord on the 5th fret because you know that's an A root and this is the shape that you build around it. Yeah. So if you've got that basic sort of understanding about how the guitar works, then you should be able to follow on. And as an aside as well, I've created a PDF to go with this video which has all of the cage positions drawn out. It's got the chords, it's got the pentatonic, and I show it both from the point of view of the major keys and minor keys as well. But when you're learning to improvise, I think the most important thing really is to work on connecting the ideas, the thoughts you've got going through your head with the movements of your hands on the neck. And that in context with music, in context with a harmony. So I like to start, I don't see the point in learning all of the cage positions going up and down the neck straight away. It's more important to just take one or even a portion of one. And my own preference is to start with the pentatonic scale. So you could just start with a pentatonic scale in one position, one pentatonic scale, and get yourself a backing track and start to explore that. And then you can start to add some of the additional knowledge. Maybe you can add knowledge about where the chord sits underneath that pentatonic scale and see how that affects your playing when you're playing over harmony. And then you can add, say, the major scale shapes to that and see how that fits over the harmony as well. And then you start to build and build and add, but constantly bringing it back to the harmony again and how you improvise against the harmony. Because that's building that connection between what you think about, you know, when you're daydreaming, if you're daydreaming a guitar solo, for example, you need to find ways of connecting what's going on in your head with the movements of your hand on the neck. So that's the approach that I like to take. And so what I thought I'd do is just give you a little example of me doing that right from first principles, playing over in a major key and in a minor key. So let's give that a go. Okay, so I've just sampled me playing an E major chord in my looping pedal. You can use YouTube videos, backing tracks for example, just to give you that harmony as well. But you just need to find something that you can play against. And in fact, when I first started doing this, all I do is just play the bottom E note just to give me some context. And I like to start with the pentatonic scale. So I'll start with the G pentatonic position, if you like, which is the one that everyone knows. And what I do is, just like when you line up a bar chord, you look for where the root note should go and you line that up with the note on the neck. So I want to play an E major, so I look for an E note, and there's one there on the 12th fret. And then I line up the shape with that and just play it. So there's me playing the E major pentatonic, yeah? And once it's lined up, I just start to explore it. Just listen to what the notes sound like against that chord. So all we're doing at the moment is just exploring the territory, just getting some idea about what fits, what has a little bit of tension, what just fits perfectly. Just see if we can just create some lines, just see if we can think of a little melody and see if we can play along. Just go with the flow. Yeah, and that's really all I'm doing. doing, and that's really important. If you can get that sort of mind to finger connection, that's really what you're trying to do. And you notice with every cage position there's an associated chord as well, and the chord here looks like that. Just to fill in the arpeggio. And you can hear how each of those notes fits really well. If I just land on any of those notes, they all fit really nicely over this chord, which is not surprising because they all come from this chord as well. And that's really what the chord is doing, is pointing you to all of the important notes, the notes that fit really well against this key. And there are some notes that sit outside of the pentatonic, outside of the chord as well, that are part of the pentatonic. For example, that note. Can you hear how it kind of wants to fall back onto that note again? If I do a little string bend, you can hear it resolves when I drop back onto a chord note again. There's the other one. You hear how it kind of fits, but it kind of wants to resolve back onto the chord note again. Okay, so that's why the chord notes are important. But really, you should be letting your ear guide you. You know, trying to think of melodies, trying to think of lines that you want to play, and see if you can actually realise them on the neck of the guitar. So that's one of the things I'd work on as well. And then you can move on to the scale, and with the scales, I tend to work just in little areas of the neck, maybe 2 or 3 strings to start with. So there's my pentatonic again. And you can see that the scale notes sort of fill in the gaps. There's an extra note there. And another one just there. And again, what we're doing is just exploring the territory. So you can start just dropping see how I'm just dropping those extra notes in and listening to them, and see where I want to take them, just sort of play around with them. So that's playing around with the caged over a major chord. Let's try it over a minor chord. Okay, so this time I've sampled an E minor chord in my looping pedal. So again, you need to find a backing track on YouTube or somewhere which is in a minor key, something that you can play over, something that feels nice and straightforward. And as I'm playing an E minor, I look for an E note, which is up there on the 12th fret. And I use that to line up my pentatonic, and you can see it's the same shape as the major pentatonic, but you're using a different note of the scale to line up. So I put my E note on that new root note, and then I start to explore the pentatonic, the same shape again. Just like before, I'm trying to come up with the lines in my head, just trying to listen to the chord and listening to how these notes from the pentatonic scale fit over that chord. And even though it's the same shape for the pentatonic, the notes kind of fit slightly differently. And the reason for that is we're playing over a minor chord, which is, again, if you look at the associated minor chord and where those notes are, you can see how all of those fit really nicely over this chord, because again they come straight from the root chord that we're playing. And then we can see. Start playing with some of the notes that sit outside the chord and just feel the little bit of tension that you get from those. There's another one as well. And how then like to resolve back onto the chord notes, yeah. And just like before, you can start to introduce those extra notes that you find in the scale as well. And again, just start with the section, maybe the top 2 or 3 strings. There's one of the new notes. And there's the other one. The point here really is the connection between the ideas in my head and how I'm resolving them into finger movements that are playing the guitar, and that's what you're working on, yeah? So you may come up with completely different lines to me, and that's perfectly fine, as long as you're sort of building that linkage between the ideas that you're coming up with, your thoughts, and what you're playing on the guitar, yeah? So hopefully you can see what I'm doing there, how I'm exploring the territory, how I've got this harmony going on in the background. And all I'm doing is exploring the shape and starting to create some ideas and play them out on the neck and just see what they sound like. And what you'll find is that you want to take things in a direction that you can't quite play. And if that's the case, and that will be the case, because that's the case for everyone, you can start introducing more technique. You can add some different licks and ideas that you want to introduce to your playing. And then the best thing to do is to take that back to the harmony again, play over a backing track and see if you can use that lick in context. And then, that takes you on to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. And that's really the journey that we're all on, that everyone is on, who's learning to improvise, because it's a lifetime activity. But anyway, hopefully that's been useful for you. And as I say, there's a PDF attached to this video, so download that, because that contains all of the positions worked out going all the way up the neck, so that's a useful little reference guide. But you don't have to learn it all in one go.